Imagine this, October 1492. You are standing on the wooden deck of a ship that is tossing so violently in the waves, it feels as if at any moment it might splinter apart. Around you, nothing but the black abyss of the Atlantic Ocean. You haven't seen land in over a month. Your food supplies are rotting. The water in the barrels has turned stagnant and reeks of a swamp. And your shipmates are increasingly looking at the captain with hatred in their eyes. Suddenly, through the roar of the surf, a cry rings out from the mast, "Land!" At that moment, no one on board realized that this cry had just erased the old map of the world. The sailor, Rodrigo de Triana, thought he was looking at the shores of wealthy Asia, but in reality, he was staring at the cradle of a future superpower. How did it happen that the history of the United States began with a gargantuan mistake? Why did Columbus lie to his men every single day? And why was this journey even possible in the first place? Today, we're breaking it all down. This is the first chapter of our chronology. To understand Columbus, you have to understand the nightmare that was 15th century Europe. Imagine if tomorrow the internet and all roads to other countries were shut down. That is roughly what happened after the Ottoman Turks captured Constantinople. The old Silk Road, which brought pepper, ginger, and silk to Europe, was cut off. Spices back then weren't just food additives. They were currency, medicine, and preservatives. Without them, Europe was sinking into grayness and disease. Everyone was searching for a new path to India. The Portuguese were trying to sail around the vast continent of Africa from the south. But there was one man who said, "Why sail all the way around when we can sail directly to the west?" That man was Christopher Columbus, a Genoese mariner who was half dreamer, half fanatic. He studied ancient books and concluded the earth is round, which few doubted by then, but it is very small. Columbus was off in his calculations by nearly 4 times. He believed that India was located exactly where America actually sits. If he had known the real distance, he would never have dared to make the trip. His ships simply wouldn't have made it. Columbus was not a rich man. To fund an expedition, he needed royal money. For 7 years, he walked through palaces like a beggar. In Portugal, they laughed at him. In England, they called him a fantasist. Even in Spain, a commission of scholars said, "Your calculations are nonsense. You will simply perish in the ocean." But Columbus got lucky. Spain had just finished a long war. Queen Isabella was a woman who enjoyed a gamble. She realized if Columbus was right, Spain would become the wealthiest country in the world. If not, she would only lose 3 old vessels and 100 sailors who were deemed expendable. Columbus negotiated incredible terms for himself. He wanted to be admiral of the ocean sea and take 1/10 of all the riches found. Imagine the nerve of this man. He doesn't have a single ship. He doesn't know where he's going, but he's already dividing up the gold of China and Japan. Isabella agreed. On August 3rd, 1492, 3 ships, the Santa Maria, the Pinta, and the Nina, set sail from the port of Palos. Let's take a look on board. These were not grand liners. The largest, the Santa Maria, was only 25 meters long, about the size of 2 modern city buses. Within this space, 40 men lived, ate, and slept. There were no cabins for the sailors. They slept right on the deck, on wet ropes or crates.
They wouldn't see hammocks until they met the indigenous people and brought them back to Europe later. The food? Hardtack biscuits as tough as stone, infested with worms, and salt pork, meat packed in so much salt that it left them perpetually thirsty, and the fresh water in the heat quickly turned into a green slime. When the Canary Islands vanished over the horizon, terror gripped the crew. At that time, people believed that monsters lived in the ocean capable of swallowing a ship, and that at the edge of the world, the water plummeted into an abyss. Columbus knew if the crew realized how far they had gone from home, they would kill him. So he turned to trickery. He kept 2 logs. In one, he wrote the truth. To the sailors, he showed another, where he understated the distance traveled. He was literally stealing miles from them, so they wouldn't panic.
In mid-September, the real trials began. The ships entered the Sargasso Sea. Imagine an ocean completely covered in thick green grass. The ships were literally getting stuck in these weeds. The wind died down. The sailors whispered, "It's a trap of the sea devil. We will stay here forever." Then the compass began to lie. The needle no longer pointed north. Today we know about magnetic poles, but back then people thought the world was broken. By October 10th, patience had run out. A mutiny began on the Santa Maria. Men surrounded Columbus, demanding he turn back. Columbus was a master of persuasion. He asked for just 3 days. "If in 3 days we do not see land, do with me what you will." And nature took pity. Sailors began to fish branches from the water with live berries on them and saw birds. Everyone realized salvation was near. And so, October 12th, Columbus steps onto the shore of an island in the Bahamas. He is in a red silk suit with a sword and a banner. He is certain he is in Japan. Local inhabitants, the Taino, come out to meet him. They were beautiful, friendly, and completely naked. Columbus wrote in his diary, "They do not know weapons and are so kind that they would give away everything they have." But his gaze caught on one small detail. Some of the inhabitants had gold rings in their noses. From that moment, the fate of America was sealed. The thirst for gold outweighed the curiosity of the explorer. Columbus returned to Spain a hero. He brought back corn, potatoes, and tobacco. But he also brought the beginning of the end for the indigenous peoples. He died in poverty and loneliness, never knowing that he had discovered an entire continent. His navigation error created the world we live in today. From this moment begins the long, complex, and bloody path toward the creation of the United States of America. But that is a topic for our next episode.